Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you see, every choice you make, and every limit you feel pressing against you might not be real. Not in the sense of an illusion like a magician's trick, but something far stranger. A reality carefully shaped by something invisible, silent, and utterly convincing. You roll out of bed, check your phone, and scroll through headlines that make you anxious. You glance at your reflection and hear the familiar inner voice whispering judgments about who you are. You sip your coffee, already rehearsing the challenges of the day. It all feels normal until you stop and wonder, where did all these expectations, fears, and truths about life actually come from? We live as if our thoughts are our own. We act as though our decisions spring from pure free will. But what if, beneath the surface, the architecture of your reality is built not by facts, not by reason, but by the quiet dictatorship of your beliefs? And here's the paradox. The most powerful beliefs you hold are not the ones you know you have. They are the ones you don't even realize exist. Think about it. If someone told you that you can only ever earn a certain amount of money in life, you might scoff. Yet without realizing it, you might still be making career choices that fit neatly inside that invisible ceiling. If someone whispered to you as a child that you are not the type to lead, perhaps you've unconsciously avoided opportunities to speak up or take charge, even when the chance was yours. What's haunting isn't that beliefs shape reality, it's that they do so whether you agree with them or not. A belief doesn't need your conscious consent, it simply embeds itself in the soil of your mind, and from there it grows roots, shaping your perceptions, actions, and even what you think is possible. Now here's where the real discomfort sets in. If beliefs can shape reality, then your reality may not actually be yours. It may be the hand-me-down reality of your parents, teachers, culture, or some anonymous voice from a decade ago. Every truth you take for granted might have been planted long before you knew how to question it. What's even more unsettling is how beliefs camouflage themselves. A fish doesn't know it's in water. Likewise, you rarely notice the beliefs you're swimming in. They don't arrive in your mind labeled, "Warning, this is just a belief." They arrive disguised as facts. You might think you're bad with numbers, not creative, or too old to start over. But what if none of that is true? What if these statements are nothing more than unexamined beliefs, absorbed somewhere along the way, now masquerading as immutable laws of reality? The question that follows is almost dangerous to ask. If my beliefs have been shaping my life without my permission, then how much of my life has truly been mine? Consider the way fear operates. Fear often hides behind rational explanations like, "I can't risk that because it's not practical," or "I just need to wait for the right time." But peel back
reasoning, and you'll often find a belief at the root. I will fail, I'm not enough, or people like me don't succeed in that world. These beliefs don't just guide your decisions, they dictate the scope of your dreams. And here's a darker twist. Beliefs can even warp your memory. Research in cognitive psychology has shown that we often reconstruct memories to fit our existing beliefs about ourselves and the world. In other words, we don't just see the present through the lens of belief, we edit the past to match it. Your story of who you are might be less like an autobiography and more like propaganda written by the deepest assumptions you've never questioned. The strangest part? This invisible power doesn't feel oppressive, it feels familiar, comfortable, even right. You defend it without knowing why. You surround yourself with people who share it, reinforcing its grip. You see evidence everywhere, because your mind is wired to filter reality to fit it. So here's the great question, the one that might keep you awake tonight. If your beliefs can quietly control the boundaries of your life, then what happens when you finally see them for what they are? Will you cling to them out of safety? Or will you dare to strip them away, even if it means discovering that much of what you've built was standing on an invisible foundation? That's the door in front of you. Behind it is not comfort, not certainty, but the raw, unsettling possibility that your life could be much bigger or much smaller than you've been led to believe. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. The hidden problem and its psychological and philosophical roots. If beliefs are invisible architects of our reality, then the most dangerous ones are the beliefs we never question. They operate like background programs in your mind, always running, consuming mental energy, shaping your perceptions, yet you never consciously choose to install them. But where do they come from? And why do they have such a suffocating hold over us? To answer this, we have to step into the shadowed corridors of psychology and philosophy, into the terrain where the mind is not a clean slate, but a palimpsest, layered with centuries of human conditioning. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is perhaps the most chilling description of belief's grip. Beliefs, especially the unexamined ones, live in that unconscious realm. They become the silent authors of your so-called destiny. When you fail, you blame circumstance. When you succeed, you credit luck. Rarely do you realize that the blueprint was drawn long before you acted by beliefs you inherited rather than created.
From the moment you were born, you were absorbing, not learning in the deliberate sense, but absorbing. Impressions, tones of voice, patterns of approval and disapproval. A child doesn't question whether a parent's statement is a fact or an opinion. It simply becomes part of the operating system. People can't be trusted. Money is scarce. Love has to be earned. These are not delivered to you as philosophical propositions. They are embedded in your daily experience until they crystallize into unquestioned truths. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche understood this invisible inheritance. He warned about the herd morality, the set of beliefs society adopts en masse, passed down without scrutiny. Most people live their entire lives inside this moral architecture, never daring to test its foundations. Why? Because to question it is to risk exile from the herd, and exile feels like death to the human mind. Psychologically, this is rooted in our primal need for safety. Evolution didn't design us for independent truth-seeking. It designed us to survive within a group. Beliefs, especially shared beliefs, acted as a kind of social glue. In the ancient world, to question the tribe's core beliefs could get you cast out, which, in a predator-filled landscape, was almost a death sentence. Today, the predators have changed, but the wiring hasn't. We still cling to the comfort of shared narratives, even if they limit us. And this is where the problem deepens. Beliefs shape identity. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, observed that humans can endure almost any suffering if they find meaning in it. But meaning itself is constructed from beliefs. Your sense of who I am is not a fixed truth. It is a fragile structure built from countless inherited and self-constructed beliefs. Change those beliefs, and the identity you've been protecting for decades can start to crumble, and that can feel like annihilation. This is why self-help advice like "just change your beliefs" often fails. Beliefs are not simply ideas in your head, they are anchors of the self. Remove one, and the waters get rough. The fear you feel isn't just fear of change, it's fear of losing yourself. Arthur Schopenhauer took a darker view. He believed that most humans live not by reason, but by blind will, driven by unconscious forces they neither understand nor control. Beliefs, in this light,
are not tools we consciously wield. They are the invisible strings by which the will manipulates us. We think we are choosing, but often we are merely rationalizing the dictates of a deeper, hidden force. Consider cognitive biases, which modern psychology has mapped extensively. The confirmation bias makes us seek evidence that supports our beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. The status quo bias keeps us anchored to the familiar, even when change would benefit us. The anchoring effect ensures that our judgments are disproportionately influenced by the first piece of information we receive, even if it's wrong. These biases aren't just mental glitches, they are belief protection mechanisms. They defend your worldview the way an immune system defends your body. This is why debates rarely change minds. The mind is not designed to surrender beliefs to logic alone. And here lies the hidden problem. The very structure of human cognition is built to preserve belief, not dismantle it. You are not born into a neutral world, free to choose your truths.
Are born into a thick web of inherited narratives about politics, religion, love, money, success, morality, and the architecture of your mind is designed to keep you there. Even Aldous Huxley warned that the greatest enemy of truth is not the lie, but the myth, because a myth, unlike a lie, feels true. Myths are sustained by belief, and belief is sustained by emotion. To question them is to unsettle the emotional equilibrium that keeps your identity and social belonging intact. But perhaps the most dangerous aspect is this: the stronger your belief, the more invisible it becomes. You don't even think of it as something to question. A devout materialist does not question the existence of only physical reality. A devout romantic does not question the necessity of soulmates. A lifelong cynic does not question the inevitability of disappointment. These truths become like the air, invisible, omnipresent, and unchallenged. And so the cycle continues. Your beliefs create your perception confirms your beliefs, and the loop tightens until reality itself feels like a closed room. You don't see the bars because the bars are made of thoughts. If this is the hidden structure of your life, then breaking free requires more than a new idea or a burst of motivation. It requires nothing less than dismantling the scaffolding of your identity. It requires stepping into uncertainty, into the terrifying space where you admit that you might have been wrong, not just about a few details, but about the very foundation of your reality. And here's the question that starts to pull the thread. If you had to strip away every belief that wasn't truly yours, how much of you would be left? The unseen consequences. If unexamined beliefs are the architects of our reality, then their most sinister feature is not the prison they create, it's that they convince you the prison is a palace. You decorate its walls, give it a fresh coat of paint, and tell yourself this is all there is. Meanwhile, the door to the outside stands unlocked, but you've never even thought to try it. This is how beliefs quietly dictate the boundaries of your life, not by force, but by framing your possibilities. You don't ask for more because you don't believe more is possible. You don't challenge the status quo because you don't believe there's an alternative worth pursuing. And you rarely notice these limits because your mind has been trained to see them as reality. On a personal level, this can manifest in ways so subtle they feel natural. You might notice patterns repeating, the same type of relationships ending the same way, the same career frustrations arising no matter where you work, the same feeling of never enough haunting your achievements. You think you're making fresh choices each time, but in truth, the choices are being funneled through the same narrow channel of belief.
that a particular group of people is dangerous, you can be persuaded to support policies or actions you would otherwise find morally unthinkable. And yet, the most tragic consequence is this: you may never realize how much you've missed. You could live an entire life convinced you are making free choices, never suspecting that those choices were simply the ones your beliefs allowed you to see. You could die never knowing that a completely different life was possible, one where you pursued the art you abandoned, forgave the person you couldn't, or left the city you thought you had to endure. The invisible nature of belief makes this loss even harder to grasp. You can measure financial loss, count missed opportunities, or recall relationships gone wrong. But how do you measure the life you never even imagined? How do you mourn something you never knew you could have had? Perhaps that's why the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of bad faith, the condition of living in self-deception, pretending you are bound by necessity when in truth you are bound by your own choices and assumptions. Sartre's warning is sharp. You are not just a victim of your beliefs, you are also their guardian. You maintain them, often fiercely, because they give you the comfort of a predictable world. But predictability is not freedom. It is the slow erosion of possibility disguised as safety. And if safety comes at the cost of becoming a smaller, dimmer version of yourself, is it really safety at all? This is where the urgency builds. The longer you let your beliefs go unexamined, the deeper their roots grow. The deeper the roots, the harder they are to pull. The harder they are to pull, the more you will mistake them for the ground itself. And so the question sharpens. If beliefs can shrink your life without your awareness, how much longer are you willing to let them? The rebellion. How to break free. There comes a point when the discomfort of staying the same outweighs the fear of change. That moment, that split second when you admit, "This cannot be my whole life," is the birth of rebellion. Not rebellion against authority, politics, or society alone, but against the most tyrannical ruler you've ever known, your own unexamined beliefs. Rebellion begins in silence, not in dramatic gestures or public declarations, but in the private, almost forbidden thought, "What if I've been wrong about everything?" This is not a comfortable question. It burns. It can leave you disoriented, like stepping outside and realizing the horizon you've stared at all your life was just a painted wall.
That discomfort is a sign you're beginning to loosen the chains. You can't dismantle a prison you can't see. Step 1. Name the walls. Before you can break a belief, you have to see it. This sounds simple, but remember, beliefs hide as truth. Start with what feels obvious. I'm bad with money. I'll never be good at relationships. It's too late for me to change careers. Write them down. Look at them not as facts, but as inherited scripts. Ask yourself, where did this come from? Who taught me this? Did I ever consciously choose it? You may find some beliefs trace back to a single moment, a humiliating comment from a teacher, a family argument you overheard, a failure you never forgave yourself for. Others will be harder to trace, woven so deeply into your culture or religion or peer group that they seem ancient, eternal. Step 2. Question their authority. A belief is only as powerful as the unquestioned authority you grant it. When you challenge it, you weaken it. Use the Socratic method on yourself. Is this always true? Can I think of even one example that proves it wrong? If someone I love believed this, would I encourage them to keep it? You're not trying to force yourself into positive thinking. You're aiming for accurate thinking, seeing the belief for what it is, a mental model, not an absolute law. Step 3. Expose yourself to contradiction. The brain resists disconfirming evidence, but it can be retrained.
If you believe I'm unlucky, start keeping a daily record of things that went right, no matter how small. If you believe people can't be trusted, make a deliberate effort to engage in low-risk trust exercises. Lend a small amount of money. Ask for help with something minor. Watch how your mind struggles at first, then slowly starts to adapt. This is why travel, reading, and meeting people from vastly different backgrounds can be so liberating. They smash the illusion that your way of thinking is the only way. When you immerse yourself in different belief systems, your own begin to loosen. Step 4. Replace, don't just remove. Human beings can't live in a vacuum. When you tear down a belief, you must plant something in its place, or the old one will creep back in. Choose beliefs that expand possibility rather than shrink it. For example, instead of "I'm bad with money," try "I can learn the skills to manage and grow my money." Instead of "It's too late for me," try "My timing is my own, and I can start now."
Make sure these replacement beliefs are not blind optimism, but grounded in evidence and action. Belief without action is just fantasy. Belief coupled with action becomes transformation. Step 5. Expect resistance, especially from yourself. Your mind will try to pull you back to the familiar. You'll feel the urge to sabotage new habits, to interpret setbacks as proof the old belief was right. This is normal. The old belief is fighting for survival. Remember, your nervous system equates familiarity with safety, even if what's familiar is suffocating you. When resistance comes, pause and name it. This is my mind defending the old pattern. That awareness alone can keep you from slipping back. Step 6. Live as if. Sometimes you can't wait to believe before you act. You must act before you fully believe. If you've always believed you're not creative, start painting, writing, designing. Not because you feel creative, but to prove to yourself that you can engage in creativity regardless of the belief. Action rewires belief faster than thought alone. The courage to lose yourself. Breaking free from your beliefs is not just about gaining freedom. It's about being willing to lose the identity those beliefs created. This is why so many people stop halfway. They taste freedom, but retreat when they realize it demands the death of the old self. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the need to die and become, to let the old self dissolve so something truer can emerge. In practice, this feels like standing in the middle of a bridge, unable to see either shore clearly, and deciding to keep walking anyway. It can be lonely. The people who knew you as your old self may not understand. Some will feel threatened by your change because it challenges their own unexamined beliefs. They might try to pull you back, not out of malice, but because your transformation makes them confront their own stillness. But here's the truth. You do not owe your old self loyalty. You owe your future self a chance. The small, defiant acts. Rebellion doesn't have to start with grand gestures. It starts with small, daily acts of defiance against the old narrative. Saying no when you'd usually say yes. Asking a question you've always been afraid to ask. Applying for the job you think you're underqualified for. Admitting you want something you've been told you shouldn't want. Every small act chips away at the invisible walls. Over time, you start to see cracks of life, and one day you realize the walls aren't holding you in anymore. They were only ever holding you back. And that's when the most dangerous thought of all begins to grow. If I was wrong about this belief, what else might I be wrong about? This is not the end of rebellion. It's the beginning of a life lived awake.